We're going to be talking about the GXP2135 Grandstream phones that you guys have. And these are the phones that do audio only, not video. Alright, so some of the basics here are just the anatomy of what the buttons do. And this one here, it's a green picture of a phone. This is like on your cell phone, your send button. This allows you to dial numbers, and then once you've completed dialing the number, you can hit the send button. You're not actually analog dialing, which means if you've made a mistake in a number, you can go back and correct it. It hasn't actually sent that number yet until you press the send button.
You've reached Modern Telecom.
And now it's completed the dial.
You've reached
Up here is your end call. So this is a soft key, which just below the screen is the button that's going to end the call. So to recap, this is your send button, and up here is your end button. These four buttons underneath here are called context sensitive. They'll change depending on what the use of the phone is. For example, when you're not making a phone call, you don't need an end button. So the end button is replaced by this weather button, and when you push that, you get a nice view of the weather. Alright, next thing is I'm going to move this arrow over here. These kind of arrows control what's going on the screen. So if I push right, it basically, think of this as moving the screen over to another page. So on this page of the screen, we have some different buttons. I will zoom in a bit so we can see. Sorry for my tripod here. There we go. Okay, so these are parking spots, conference, paging, some various features. I'll go through some of that stuff in detail with you. Now if I push the arrow again, I'm able to move back to this page. So again, moving back and forth between the pages to reveal different types of buttons. This middle button here brings up a menu on the phone. So in this menu, you can access things like, well, call history. It's just another way to get into the call history. Some information, contacts. These kind of things actually aren't really critical for the use of the phone, so I'm not going to cover these things, but you're welcome to play with them. Going into preferences and such, you're able to customize colors and ringers and the typical kind of stuff you get on your smartphones. You can do a lot of customizing through that. Alright, so now I'm going to show you about answering a call, and then putting a call on hold, and then we'll get into transferring a call as well. So I'm going to place a call to this phone right now. I'm going to zoom out so you can actually see a second phone next to it. Okay, so this is extension 34, and there's a speed dial button here on this phone that lets me actually dial into that extension. So I'll push this. And this phone is now ringing. Lifting up the receiver is all you've really got to do to answer the call, unless you're doing it from speakerphone. Now once I've got that call up, I now have some extra options here on the screen that I can do with them. There's also some physical buttons. For example, this is your pause key. This pause is what they're calling hold, so same idea. If I push hold, it tells me that it's on hold. And this phone, which is the person that made the call, is going to be listening to hold music. To resume the call, it tells you right here, this button down there is the resume. So always keep your eye on the bottom row for things that will be useful to you. So ending the call, resuming a call, transferring the call. These are really useful buttons, and they'll change and give you the options that are available to you while you're in a call. So if I want to, for example, transfer this call to somebody else, I could push that transfer button, and then now you'll hear some hold music because it immediately puts the other caller on hold while you're figuring out who you want to transfer it to. So what we could do is we could type the person's extension that we want to transfer it to, or we can see in the background the list of the people on our speed dials. We can select one of those people from the speed dial. So let's send it over to this person here, and I'll just click that. That's moving the call over to another phone. And that call can be answered over here now. I can hang up. This phone is actually already disconnected because once you've done a transfer, you've completed what needs to be done on that phone, and there's nothing going on. So you don't actually, yes, we have to hang up the receiver, but you're not keeping a line off the hook or anything by doing this, because it realizes that you've transferred the call and this receiver is just already disconnected. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of taking two calls. So I'm going to send a call over to this phone right now. I'm going to dial it from this phone over here.
It's a beautiful day.
And now I'm going to go to another phone and call as well. So we're going to have two calls going to that same extension. So on the phone, it actually is telling us that there's a second call coming in. It kind of calls it line 2, but we can answer it or reject it. So if we answer it, what's now happened is the first person you were speaking to, which is actually over here, this person's actually on hold now. And you're now speaking with the new caller that called. Now, down here on the phone, there's an option to swap. So exactly what it says it's going to do, it'll swap between the two callers that you've got going on right now. And if you click swap, you'll now notice that the name on the display has changed to tell you who you're talking to now. So you can keep swapping back and forth while you're talking to two different people. When you're done talking with one of those people, just then do the end call. Hit end. That disconnects one of those callers. Now, what's happened now is you disconnected the call that I was speaking to. You still have the other person. Now, they're still on hold. So to resume them, it's letting you know, it's flashing to say, hey, you've still got that guy on hold. You can resume that first person you were speaking to. And now nobody is on hold. You're back to your original conversation. Pushing this again is to end the call. Now, just so you know, you don't actually have to push the end button if you're using the receiver. Just feel free to hang up the receiver. Hanging up the receiver is always the same as pushing the end button, but for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm doing a lot on speakerphone, so pushing the end button is the way you hang up the speakerphone. All right, let's suppose a call comes in to the main ringing, the main phone number of the building. So that's going to ring multiple phones at the same time, and any one of those phones can answer the call. So for example, so there's several phones in my office here that are ringing, and you can see there's a lot of lights flashing on all these phones. And the reason why they're doing that, the reason why all those lights were flashing is because that call is being sent to multiple phones in the building, and it's indicating on all the phones, or on the lights on the phones, which of those extensions are getting buzzed for this particular call. So any one of the people can pick up. When the first person picks up that call, all the other phones will stop ringing. Now, let's suppose this was a call that came in, but it's now to go to somebody else. So again, this is repetitious, but we learn through repetition. I'm going to transfer this to another person, just so you see again a second time on how to transfer that. So I'm going to push the transfer button. Zoom in so you can see here. All right, transfer. Now, I could, again, use one of these speed dials that are up here to indicate who I want to transfer that to. But let's suppose it's somebody that's not on the list of calls, because there are a couple of extra phones that aren't on the speed dial. So to transfer them over, we could actually just type the extension number. So for example, I'll just transfer it to 25. It actually tells me the name of the person that's at 25 just before we send it, so we know we've got the right person. And then over here it says blind transfer. Blind transfer just means that it's going to immediately send that call over to that person. And now we've sent the call off to another phone. I'll hang up. Now, transferring calls are great when you know that the person is at their desk and is able to take the call. Or if you're transferring it to that person and it's going to wind up in their voicemail. But what if you want to put the person on hold and go find the person? So this is actually, you have a hold button that you can put a call on hold, but there's another feature that's a little bit better than a hold. It's called a parking spot. Parking spots are used when you want to put somebody into a parking spot and that person will be retrieved from a different phone at a different time. So it frees up your phone because you no longer need to worry about what's going to happen to that call after you've parked it, because somebody else, you'll go and find somebody else and you'll tell them the call's parked. They'll go to their phone and they'll pick it up. When you place somebody on hold, just to clarify the difference between a hold and a park, when you place somebody on hold, they're on hold only on your phone. Nobody else can take that call from you. It's a private call only for you. So use hold if you're putting somebody on hold to make a quick errand or grab something from a filing cabinet and you're going to come right back. Nobody else takes that call away from you. Use a parking spot if you intend on, or somebody else intends on taking this call from a different phone in the building. So here's an example of how this is going to work. I'm going to make a call into this phone. So I've received a call on this phone, and now I want to park it, and somebody's going to answer that call, or pick up that call later on this phone. So to do that, we need to move the arrow over to the right to reveal these different feature buttons. And these different feature buttons, they're not the people's extensions, they're different things. I'll show you here what they are. So these are different parking spots. It says park, park, park. Okay? We can pick any one of these parking spots. They're all green, so they're all available and not currently in use. You have several parking spots that you can use in the building so that different people can do parking at different times. So I'll just take this first parking spot. Now, this phone is actually disconnected. So you're free to use this phone for something else now. The call has been parked. We can hang this phone up. The reason why this is flashing red is it's indicating that there is somebody parked on that parking spot. The originating phone that we used over here is actually just on hold, listening to hold music right now. So I'm going to go up to this other phone up here. Now let's suppose you go and you find the person that they're holding for and you say, okay, I've got somebody held for you, they want to speak to you. When we move over to the right here, we can see again it's flashing red. It's flashing red on that line because that's a parking spot that somebody's waiting on. And anywhere in the building, you can just go and push that button and you'll retrieve that call from that parking spot. There we go. And there we go. Now, whoops, it's a bit loud because I've got some feedback with the speakerphone, so I've just got to turn down the volume. But that's it. That's how you park calls. So I can repark this call, for example. I'll push parking spot. I can go to another phone, retrieve the call. I can park it again. Go to a different phone, retrieve the call. And the reason why you have different parking spots again is in case this same scenario comes up multiple times in the building where you have several people on hold waiting for people. Next, I'm going to be telling you about a feature called the conference server. You might be familiar with dial-up conference servers that you use through third-party companies where you have to dial a phone number, multiple people dial that same phone number, and then they're all connected by a server system that's outside of the building. That's how we prefer to use conference systems now. There is a feature built into the phones where you can conference calls together using the phone itself. I'm not going to do training on that because once people see how powerful and easy to use the conference server is, and because with our phone system it's at no additional cost, everybody prefers to use the conference server and no one's looked back at the built-in conference features of the phone. So since we include the conference server, we've put it as a speed dial button right here on the top of the phone. So again, if you don't see this button, it just means you have to move your page back and forth between all the people extensions to the feature buttons. So you'll see here it's right at the top and it says conference. And when I push that, it'll basically, if nobody's using the conference, it will start a brand new conference. That's as simple as it is. You don't need codes, you don't need IDs. So right now the light is off, which means the conference server is free and available for us to use. all I got to do is click the button.
Welcome to the conference server. You are now entering the conference. You are the first participant in the conference. Please hold the line.
I'm just going to turn the volume down while we talk here. But so at this point, you're now waiting for your participants to join. So if this were something scheduled that maybe went out as a memo, or maybe some parents were calling in, and you were scheduled to have them. So essentially what would happen is they might call through to the reception, and let's just simulate here that somebody calls through to the reception.
It's a beautiful day.
So reception might answer this call, and they say, okay, I'm here for the conference. So at this point, we will just transfer the call to the conference. And I'll just zoom in here so you can see the light. Okay, so it's lit up red on this phone, indicating that there is a conference in progress. So we know that let's say the other person is waiting for them. So we can, at this point, transfer. And there is the transfer button. So if it's not listed down here, then you can get to it from this button right there. So we can push this transfer button, and it says, who do you want to transfer that call to? And we'll say the conference.
Welcome to the conference server. You are now entering the conference. There is one more participant in the conference.
Okay. So the transfer has been completed from reception, which is over here, and now the outside caller is connected in the conference. Other people in the building could also join this conference, so they just need to go to any one of these phones and press the conference button.
Welcome to the conference server. You are now entering the conference. There are 2 more participants in the conference.
Okay, so now there's a total of lots of echoes. There are 3 people in the conference now. There's an outside caller and 2 internal callers have called. So we can keep pressing conference buttons to join. As people leave the conference, you'll hear a tone. So I'm going to take the outside caller, and they're going to disconnect now. That's a tone to indicate that someone has left. So you can take a head count and see who's left just by asking, who's left in the conference. And then as the last person leaves the conference, so I'll just end the call here. Actually, that's the speakerphone call. I'm going to end this one. So there's 1 person left in the conference. So the last person just leaves the conference. And the red light on the phones indicating that the conference server in use has gone off to indicate that now the conference room is available for somebody else to use. So if you find that you are having multiple conferences in the building and one conference room or conference server isn't enough, we can add additional conference servers to the system. So this conference server actually has an extension listed to it. You'll see here on the screen it says 333. So it's actually like an extension, just like extension 25 might be in the boardroom. Conference room 333 is a room in of itself. We can have another conference room called 334, and it can be another room. We'll assign it to a different button and allow other people to join and have separate meeting space in there. So what we'll commonly have is customers maybe have purpose delegated conference rooms. So teachers might have a conference room that they could book. Staff could have a conference room that they could book. So we might divide it up by departments so that you can book these conference rooms and use them as you need. Next, I'm going to go through some of the other buttons that are on the phone. So we briefly covered this button over here being a transfer button. And although at times you will be offered an option to transfer at the bottom of the screen, there's only 4 buttons at the bottom of the screen. And if there happen to be more than 4 available options that the phone thinks you might need, the transfer button might not be there. So that's why they've also given you a physical transfer button here. So you're never without your transfer button. This one to the right of us is a conference button that's used to make conference calling directly on the phone. It requires a lot of button pushes to get a conference together that way, so I'm not going to cover that since we've already covered the conference server, which is a superior way of doing conference calls. So moving on, we've got this envelope here. This is the voicemail button. So simply pushing that button enters the voicemail system. Nothing more complicated than that.
You are calling your mailbox for the first time. To identify your extension, you may record your name. This recording will be...
I'm going to stop that there because that's the initial setup of this person's voicemail box. The first time you press that button, you'll be prompted to record your greeting and your personal welcome message and maybe a password for your voicemail box. So I'll leave that in that current state, but it is a voice-guided voicemail system, very similar to other ones that you've used. So you just listen to the prompts over the phone of what to do, and it'll do its thing. One feature our voicemail system has that a lot of others don't is the ability to transfer voicemail messages to other phones. So while you're listening to a voicemail message, you might be prompted to save or to delete the voicemail. One of the options is 6 to move the message to another mailbox. That's a kind of a neat feature. You can push 6 and then type in a two-digit extension of one of the other people in the building, and it will then move that message out of your mailbox and into their mailbox. So this allows, for example, a general mailbox and a receptionist role to dispatch the mailboxes to different people's phones. What will happen is when it hits that phone, it'll also email a copy of the voicemail to you. So you'll get it in your email and you'll also get it on your phone. Next button next to here is a directory button. So this is a company-wide directory that you can search for people's extensions that maybe aren't on this list of extensions. So for example, daycare is not listed on this list, so I could, and I don't know what extension that is. So I could push this directory thing, and then I could push D for daycare, and then search. Okay, it's going to bring up all the names that have D in it, but there's daycare. So I can now click on that one, and it tells me, oh, it's 33. So I can press dial right here, and it'll dial that. I'll just cancel that. So again, that's a directory button. Click there, just type any letter, and it will bring up all the people in the building that have that letter in their name. So there's and then the dial button. Sorry, that's to dial after you've selected the person you want. And this button here, it's telling me a picture of home. It's going to go back to the home. All right, next I'm going to move over to some of the other special features here. Over to this one, and I'm going to zoom in so we can see the screen a bit. Okay. We've covered the parking spots, and we've covered the conference. This is a paging button. So how the paging works is you push that button once, and you record your page message. And the reason it's recorded and not live is because we know that in your building there's going to be a couple of phones that will be very close to each other, such as the main office has 3 phones within earshot. We don't want a situation where there'd be the screeching that of the one microphone picks up on another phone. So what we'll do is we press the page button, and I'm just going to make a general page, and then I hang up. And I'm just going to make a general page, and then I hang up. So that's what happens. So after I've recorded the message, it then broadcasts it out to all the phones with a little tone at the beginning of it. All right, the next 2 features here are these ones that I've programmed there saying closed. What these will do is if you are closing, for a holiday, and you don't want the phones to ring until you come back after the holiday. So what you'll do is, for example, if this department, and I've labeled which department is which, is going to be closing down, so we would push this button.
Night service activated.
So the phone is telling you that night service is activated. It's basically a feature that we have that, at night, let's say your phones would not ring, but I'm giving you the power to use this anytime you want. So you would simply push that button, and as you can see on all the phones, this red light has illuminated under the closed icon, just to let you know that you won't receive calls anymore to that phone line. So you can still dial internally to different extensions in the building, but what you can't do is receive calls from your outside phone numbers on that phone number. If the other department's closed, you can click that button to close that department as well. So that will stay illuminated to remind you so that when you come in, let's say after the weekend or after the holiday, Monday or Tuesday, you do need to push this button to reinstate your phone lines. So I push that and it'll say that the service is off.
Night service deactivated.
Okay, and now the line is open for business. Last feature I'm going to show you is Do Not Disturb. So the Do Not Disturb feature is if you just don't want your phone to ring. So this has nothing to do with the whole building, but perhaps you are in a private meeting and you don't want to be disturbed during that meeting. So what you would do is down here there is a mute button. If you push this mute button, that will indicate on the screen that your phone is in Do Not Disturb mode. I'll do that to demonstrate here. There we go. So you can see right over the screen, it's plastered this Do Not Disturb. And that's indicating that under no situations will your phone ring. Other people in the building who see your extension on their directory will actually see you have a red light next to your name. So everyone else who has the phones with your extension on it will know that you are not to be disturbed, that you have the red light on. So when you turn that off, again, just by pushing the mute button again, now that's gone off on all the phones.